Jesus, all the way. I'll forever trust in you. Jesus, all the way. JC 24/7.
I'm here being entertained by some of the most wonderful people you can ever find, in Trinidad at least, trying to glean from them and from their experience some lessons that we can learn regarding our life and living today. And as such, we have begun a series, or we intend to begin a series, treating with the old-time days. Of course, you have to be living long enough to be able to reflect on the old-time days. And so I'm happy to welcome on set and to be also entertained in this house some of my young people who will treat with this old-time days. Thank you for this opportunity of sharing with you, and you are sharing with us. And perhaps a good way to begin, because we have often heard the cry that this time not like before time, indicating that we are not living in the same kind of lifestyle that we are accustomed to. So perhaps a good way to begin is to ask the question of age. At what age is it safe to say that someone has reached the age of seniority, where you are now classified as a senior citizen?
I would say 65.
65.
65.
So anything before that, you're still becoming?
Yes, preparing.
You agree with that?
To a point. Because I believe that it has to do with how you think. How you think about life, the things you do and things like that will really indicate, the age in which you would consider yourself a senior citizen.
Okay. I have spoken to a lot of people, and I suspect you would have had that interaction as well, who indicate that they don't want to get old, or they loathe the whole idea of getting old. If that is so, and I'm not sure if that is your experience, why is that? What is this fear of becoming old or older, as the case might be?
I think that some people are afraid because of the way they see some older persons being treated, and they don't want to get themselves into that category at all. So old age seems to be something that people want to shy away from. They don't want to get old. Some people, I hear them say, you see me, I want to die before I get old. You understand? But I think it's how you treat with it.
well, they would say, I don't want to get old to be a burden to anybody.
I tell you.
And I don't want anybody to have to be worried over me. So they don't want that. Sometimes it may also stem, they may be a bit negative based on the relationships that they have with younger people within their space, right? And because of that, they said, well, look, I don't think I want to have to pass through that.
Okay. Was that ever a thought pattern of yours? You don't
No.
want to reach to that point of becoming a bird?
If I will be honest with you, I looked forward.
You're kidding?
To riding on the bus free, both back and forth.
Okay, all right.
And there's so many other things. I also look forward to retirement.
All right.
So I was happy for.
You are special, because I must confess that you are one of the first persons, if not the first person I've met, who actually talked about looking forward to retirement, looking forward, to this ripe old age, as the case might be. Is there joy in being senior?
I think so, because you're not bogged down by anything. To me, you're freer.
Okay.
Free to do what you want to do. A lot of the things that, when you were younger, you couldn't do. You're free now to do it, and do it at your pleasure. You could take your time and do it. I like to travel and things like that. I don't have to ask for leave to go anywhere. I can go, I can visit my relatives, my brothers. I like going visiting shut-ins, and a lot of things are open up to me with the freedom of, retirement.
Let's go back to the time when you were in your teens or even early 20s. Did you ever think you'd have lived this long to be as old as you are?
Well, I know I come from a family where a lot of the older people lived very long years. So it's said it's in your genes, I'm not too sure. But I expected that I would have gotten old, you know.
Okay. Brother James, do you?
Well, it was the same sort of thing with us. Ironically, when we grew up, the village where we grew up, I remember there was a particular guy who was working in the oil company, and his nephew played with us as children. And one day the nephew told us that the uncle is 42 years old. 42. And I said, but this must be something very, very special. Because I didn't see any possibility of my getting to 42. And here it is, this guy has achieved this this level.
Right.
But as for getting old, I didn't see a problem with it.
Okay.
My father was about 70 years old when he started to get gray hair. Yes.
70. I have gray hair already.
That shows you're not my father.
You're a man of humor, eh?
And there it was. It didn't seem to pose a problem
There you go.
at all. Not only in terms of the members of the immediate family,
Okay.
who both died at a happy old age. My mother died at 88, and my father died at 92.
Okay.
And he wasn't bedridden or anything like that for all of that time.
Right.
So for us, there was no prospect of maybe lying down and bedridden, and those things didn't seem to be in the equation for us.
Okay.
So it wasn't a bother. And as Eastland said, the amount of things you could look forward to when you get old that you could do now,
All right.
undisturbed.
But do you miss being young at all?
If I miss being young, yes, at times.
Okay.
I do.
That's the reality. It's Eastland, you.
To a point, because I still continue to do a lot of the things that I used to do. It's just recently I spoke with my daughter and said, listen, Gil, I think I need to wind up. You understand? I am getting old and I need to wind up. But I believe when you keep at a pace and you keep going, it's as if you are just continuing what you used to do when you were younger. But there comes a time when you need to cool it.
Okay. Let's get to the whole matter of the phrase that has often been said, and I learned it from some senior citizens as well. This time, not like before time. How true is that? And let's begin the discussion, because we were going to come back when we take the break. But let's begin the discussion talking to this issue of this time, not like before time, specifically as it relates to young people. Are the young people of today different from the young people of your time? And if so, in what way?
I think they are being affected by an environment that is, to a great extent, different from that in which we live. I say different. I don't want to say it's whether it's better or worse, because it may very well be that the things with which they have to interact stems from the demands and the kind of society in which we live and the prospects for the future that it enjoys and how people live. You went out when I was a child. My mother never worked anywhere outside. She was always at home. Many of the young people don't have that privilege. They don't see their parents because the parent leaves early in the morning to go to work and doesn't come till night, and then you're sleepy.
Interesting. But we take a break now, and when you come back, we will continue the discussion on this time, not like before time. We go straight to Sister Eastland when we come back. It's interesting to hear what she has to say.
I'll forever trust in you. Jesus all the way. JC 24/7.
It's harder for young people to do the correct thing than in our times. Why? Because they have so much distractions, namely the internet, Facebook, a lot of technology. So in our days, one word was enough for the wise. They told us that. And we tend to be very obedient.
Yes, it is easier for children to get distracted now than before. They have many other things. When they hear their friends going parties and having sleepovers and stuff, and the technology with the internet and stuff.
I believe that thing's more different than it is, back when my parents was alive, probably. I believe that there's a lot more temptations now. They have so much of things out there, and things just keep getting worse. So I think it's much harder for youths to come to Christ.
So I think and it used to be fun. It used to be fun, right? Give you a specific time to go out. You're going down by neighbor by 5 o'clock, back home, and you see. Yeah, because I want to go again. But right now, don't care. They do their own thing now.
There is a name that is so precious, a name so wonderful to me. This name is worthy of all praises. Because of him I am made free. That name is Jesus. Oh, how I love him, the one who gave his life for me. Because of love so unconditional, I will have life eternally. This name speaks peace unto my stormy clouds. This name speaks calm to my fears. And when I feel like no one loves me, his loving presence is so near. That name is Jesus. Oh, how I love him, the one who gave his life for me. Because of love so unconditional, I will have life eternally. Praise that name. Praise that name. Praise that name. Praise that name. Someday I'll leave this earthly dwelling. Through time and space, my soul will soar, and I'll finally see the face of Jesus and praise that name forevermore. That name is Jesus. Oh, how I love him, the one who gave his life for me. Because of love so unconditional, I will have life eternally. Oh, matchless is that name.
JC 24/7.
This time, not like before time. True or false? Sister Eastland is going to help us with this question as she looked at the matter of the question as to whether young people of today are different from the young people of your time.
Well, I must say, when I was a child, where I lived, all the older people were my parents. I just couldn't get away with anything. I couldn't pass anybody on the street and don't say good morning or good afternoon because the people will straighten me out. And you wouldn't want that to reach your parents because they wouldn't be asking too many questions. That's correct, you know. And everybody looked out for everybody, you know. So that today people are afraid to talk to children, especially if it's not their own children. They don't want to tell you anything because they are scared. They don't know what would happen and what not. In my time, that wasn't so. And I think that's something that we are suffering because of that, you know, the older people not being able to interact with the younger people. I think we are losing a lot from that.
So you want to say that it starts from the lack of interaction from the senior to the younger?
Vice versa.
Okay, vice versa.
Yeah.
So there's
because the seniors, some of them are scared to talk to children that they see, and some of the children, they too are scared to talk to the adults. I think long ago you felt loved and cared, you know, by everybody around. You know, if something happens, everybody is there. You know, it's not that way these days.
If you were involved in some kind of mischief, everybody looked out for you. Everybody, you know,
everybody
sort of tried to discipline you, as the case might be. So we can all agree that times have changed, Brother James.
Yes.
Is there any other way that you think times have changed, apart from the fact that you can get free bus rides and stuff like that?
That's right. Well, the whole, let's call it the computer age, in which the children live, certainly that is a massive change in the environment. I remember when the first radio came to our house. And
you remember what year it was?
1958, I think it was.
Where was I at that time? All right.
Well, I was in Form 5 in 1958, so, you know. And this gentleman bought this radio. It was a Philips radio, as I remember now.
The name's Philips, yes.
And came with my father, brought this thing. And we looked at this thing in awe and amazement. You know, it was like a Trojan horse entering Troy, you know, and it was, you know, it immediately as these things begin to impact, you find that it changes people's response to what is around them, or people feel they must measure up now with what is there, and this calls for all kinds of behavior. A child doesn't feel good now except he has a cell phone.
I tell you.
And those who have cell phones want BlackBerry and all the rest of it, and
then they have at least two in some cases.
You know, and you don't have it, and you don't see a way to get it. And that fellow over there has one. I think I could take that.
I tell you.
So what have you now? You know, we didn't think about that when I was a child. If I had a piece of cane, nobody was going to come to take it from me. For I got cane at school, and I went home and I got. If in between I misbehaved, I would be caned in a different context.
What about the whole matter of respect?
Respect?
Or lack thereof? Was it greater in your time, or was it similar?
Yeah, it was in your best interest for it to be greater. But you know, I have I've had a very interesting experience living in Gasparilla. Where I live, it's a pretty busy road. And I noticed that young people would pass and tell me good evening and so on, you know. So when it first started to happen, I went home and I told my wife, I said, you know, this is a sign that I'm getting old, you know, the young people
Oh boy.
telling you good afternoon. But when I was in that phase of my life, I had to be careful.
Right.
I couldn't pass by Mrs. White's house, Gloria's
Mother.
parents. We were very close to these people. And I couldn't go there, and Mrs. White offers me food and I don't eat.
Right.
I didn't, I mean, fortunately, she was a very good cook. But should a report go home saying that, well, you know, kids came here and I offered them food and he didn't want anything, I could be in some trouble.
Have mercy.
For that,
Have mercy.
you know, that was the way it was.
And now we have found, not to cut you, but we have found that if you enter a maxi and you say good morning, good afternoon, people look at you strange. And they mute their response if they do respond at all. But now, as you talked about in your time, you could not have done that without somebody scolding you.
You had to do that.
And the whole atmosphere, the etiquette and manners and all those things have become extinct, so to speak. And we are living in a time where people maybe think or value these things or don't value them as they used to. So is there another way you would want to share with us?
I think one of the problems too, because coming down to the ending of my teaching career, and I met some of the children's parents who I taught. They are little people, you know. They are children. And somehow I don't think they got it, so they do not have it to pass on. And I think that is one of the problems that we are having right now in our society because of that. So that if parents do not pass on certain things to their children, it is impossible for the children, when they become parents, to pass it on.
Well, it may go even further back because maybe they didn't get it passed on to them.
Them
as
too.
So somebody dropped the baton somewhere along the line and we have to restore it. What about God-fearing people? Were there more God-fearing people in your time? Were people more God-fearing in your time than today?
At least when I was a child growing up, to me, people went to church. If even the fathers didn't go, the mothers went and the children went to church. You could see people going to church. You see it now, but not like long ago. Not like long ago. You know?
But then amongst those who go to church, were there people who really had a fear for God? Because you can have a lot of Christians today, or a lot of religious people, but without the God-fearing element. Would you say that it is less now, the God-fearing element, today than in your time?
I believe it is less. In our time, when a person is a member of a church or some denomination, they stuck very carefully to whatever their church required. So being an Anglican would require, as far as they were concerned, a certain level of behavior, and you'd see that. Catholics, well, you know, were very staunch. There were Presbyterians also, because I went to a Presbyterian school. And I always find it interesting that some of the hymns that I sing in church now, I learned it in primary school. That kind of thing. They were very, 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 very strict about their religion. Now you will scarcely find that. Not that young people are necessarily uninterested in religion. They are. But we must take some of the blame to having failed to shape it in such a manner that they would, you know. And incident, there's a challenge for us. How do we market this price product?
That's right.
On them.
Especially if amongst some of us, there is not that God-fearing element. We have lost our way somewhere. It's hard to pass on, as you indicated a while ago.
Some of us seem to be losing it even. In our situation, it's really, really frightening. It is frightening. You see children come to church and they haven't touched anything spiritual for the whole week. And I mean, they are becoming adults. And if that is what we have in now, what is going to happen when they become adults? What will they be passing on? Nothing. It's frightening.
Let's begin to wrap up and maybe try to look at two elements of a similar question, of one question. What is that one thing that you cherish most now that you have, matured to seniority, what is that one thing that you thank God that you have learned in your life?
I thank God for my parents and for what they have passed on to me. They have made me who I am, and I am really, really grateful to them for that. Yeah.
What about you, Brother James? What is that one thing that you want to cherish?
My father was a man, he was an oil worker, right? He left school in Standard 3. But one of his great ambitions is that all his children will be educated. And he was very particular about that. Pay the school fees and all kinds of things. In those days, it was an adventure by itself. Right? And he stuck to that and saw all of us through. So I still remember him fondly. Because
now that you have looked at society and you are looking at what happens and what is happening around the world today, if God were to place in your hands the power to change things, what is the one thing that you'd want to change, given what you see happening around the world today? Maybe we can start off with Trinidad in particular, or Trinidad and Tobago for that matter. What is that one thing you'd want to see change to bring back the good old days?
The crazy bloodshed that is taking place in our country right now, I would really like to see that changed. And something needs to be done to help the youth of our country to see life differently.
the drug taking and the drunkenness.
How has that changed our society?
Well, so many lives have been messed up as a result of becoming attached to these things, some at a very young age, incidentally. And you have young people who are involved in the trade as carriers and all this sort of thing. A lot of them getting shot now, as we see. I mean, it's
horrendous.
It's a terrible situation, and it does reflect to some extent the absent parents also, and all that kind of thing. But oh, that something be done. Oh, that something be seriously done. Seriously.
Well, I want to thank the both of you, Sister Eastlyn Swan and Brother Keith James. Thank you for taking the time off to share with us in the last few minutes what you have learned. And hopefully somebody listening, some young person, can glean some of what you have said and apply it to their life. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 32, or correction, verse 31, the hoary head is a crown of glory if it be found in the way of righteousness. We have some folk here who have demonstrated that despite the fact that they were getting older, they have stuck with the Lord. May that be your experience as you continue to mature in Jesus. Thank you once again for joining us today, and we look forward to having you on JC 24/7.